Welcome to the National Pastime. I'm Nash.
I'm Aaron.
All right, what do you guys think of this? So we decided on a name for the show, obviously, because we introduced it. All right, so now we need like a catchy, like zip zip kapow intro kind of thing, right? Like something short to the point that it's not just us. So something I like to do when I listen to the radio, we could take a 2-second clip of this song. And maybe this is just me because I'm a big fan of me, but I feel like it's appropriate. Stop me if you don't think so. Well, don't stop me. Wait till I finish and then weigh in on it. But all right, the Queen song. That's the theme song to Flash Gordon. Every time that comes on, and they're like, Flash! Whoa! Every time that comes on, I just yell my own name. I'm like, Nash! Whoa! What if we just used that as our intro? We just yelled Nash over the part where they yell Flash, and then put like 2 seconds of that.
That could work.
Like, welcome to the National Pastime. Nash! Whoa! Yeah.
Savior of the universe!
Da, da, da. Yeah. King of every one of us. Yeah, yeah. What do you guys think of that?
I am wholly for that.
Wholly for it. All right, so we got let's see. What are you for or against? Yeah or nay for that?
That would work.
Yeah, it would work, but lots of things would work. Do you think it's good, or do you think it could be better? We could slap a bunch of stuff together. That could be one of them, or it could be none of them. What do you think?
The only thing I would be worried about is I don't know if even if it's a short thing like that, I don't know if it was like you have to get some kind of like licensing.
Well, that's why we would only use like 2 or 3 seconds of it, and we would yell over the word.
Well, we could just.
Plus, I mean, it worked for Vanilla Ice.
Like if
totally.
It didn't actually, but
well, true.
In the end.
Well, if it's like a 3-part harmony thing, like where everybody's going like Nash,
yeah,
and then you got like lower voices and all that.
I know. How it works.
I could just like record the 2 chords that are in that,
like, right?
On guitar and like and just
that's true.
There you go.
So then we wouldn't
get the idea.
Yeah,
and that's
true.
that would be legal because it's technically parody.
Yeah, that's true. Because we aren't saying Flash, we're saying Nash. And that is your name.
That is my name, and the name of the show.
Yeah,
partially.
Yeah,
National Pastime.
So I think we got enough legal wiggle room to make that happen.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you play around with that. See if you can recreate the sound of Flash Gordon.
Okay. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah. Jot it down. Put it on your to-do. So that came to me the other day because I love doing that, and I have been doing that for about 20 years now, and it just dawned on me that would be great for the part of the intro to this.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, awesome. All right, and still open to suggestions. So if you think of something better or something that would work in tandem, or we could do the thing that some podcasts do, where they introduce different parts of the show with a different soundbite.
Like different segments of the
show. Yeah, different segments. So that could be our main, welcome to the National Pastime. Here's this giant loud sound blurb.
Nash.
Whoa! And then, different other things, like, what we've been up to, or news, or public service announcements, or things like that. Those could have potentially their own things.
So we've got to have our sponsor segment.
That's right, our sponsor. Speaking of which, our sponsor for today, for this episode, is nothing. Nothing. Nothing is something worth doing. Nothing is better than what you're probably doing. Nothing.
That may very well be true.
Yeah, nothing. From the makers of literally everything. Nothing.
What are we getting paid for that placement?
Nada.
Yeah. Nothing. We're getting paid in product. So, we've got as much nothing as we could ever use.
Oh, yeah.
And more.
Supply.
Yeah, pass it out. Like I said, it's something worth doing. Nothing is something worth doing. And it's better than what most people are up to. So nothing. So that's our sponsor for today. Yeah, we got paid in product.
Yeah.
So I think next time we should pursue a different sponsor. But
really, we're running out of space for all that nothing. I don't know what I'm gonna do with all that nothing.
Yeah. Sometimes I just lay around and do nothing because I feel guilty because I got a backlog just lying around. I gotta go through this nothing.
Well, see, what I do is I save it up for Christmas and then I give it to everyone.
Oh, that's good. Oh, you know
that's
what?
A good idea.
And yeah, now that we have so much of it, I think I'm gonna give everybody nothing for Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Christmas, birthdays,
Hanukkah. That's 12 days of nothing right there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Valentine's Day. That's practically nothing in and of itself. So we could just shove that around. Fantastic. Wow, you're smart. You're a clever guy. Ben, the sound guy. You're good. You're good. And this was a good sponsor.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So you at home, go out and get yourself nothing. Treat yourself. You deserve it. What else we got? News, personal news. Last episode I was talking about one of my venture things I'm working on venture capital for is getting that shiny new wilderness first responder certification. Mm-hmm. So that course I'm eyeballing is in North Carolina, in the beautiful Appalachian Mountain Range, at a fancy grounds that I won't name the name of, but they're hosting the course. It's like a 2-week course, but they're not providing shelter as part of the course, but it's like fancy grounds, so they have like a hotel on the ground if you want to stay in the hotel, but of course you have to pay to stay there. Right. I'm not paying to stay in a hotel
just bring it
during a wilderness first responder course, right? So I'm looking and they say, oh, we have campgrounds. Perfect. I have camping materials. So I look it up, and it's these gigantic, fancy, permanent placement yurt-like tents that are nicer than some houses I've lived in, and you gotta pay to stay there, and it's not cheap. No, sir.
So
no,
they don't have any just, roughing it lots?
I don't know. So I sent them an electronic mail, and I was like, hey, what's going on? It's Nash. I'm trying to do this course that you're hosting at your place, but I'm finance sensitive and refuse to stay in your very nice accommodations for money. So if it's going
I
to
appreciate you offering.
Yeah, if it's going to cost me money, I would like to pass, but I have my own tents and whatnot, or also I'll be driving a truck, so I could just sleep in the bed of the truck if it doesn't offend the other people around, or if it does, I don't give a shit. I just want to take this course for the least amount of money possible. So I'm waiting.
I want you to not kick me out.
Yeah, I want you to not kick me out until this course is over, and I get the thing I came for. But yeah, it's just so offensive that like a thing designed, like an area designed for wilderness and camping and hosting a course for wilderness medicine in those areas and adventure would be like, stay in a nice thing or nothing at all. It's your choice. But if you're not staying in anything, then get out. Like, that would be offensive. So I'm waiting.
Maybe that's how they make their money.
Maybe. It sure seems like it, because they were like, meals provided by our giant hotel restaurant. Like, I'm definitely not ever buying a meal at a hotel restaurant. It would be like $100.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I'll just get a...
The only time I've ever eaten at a hotel restaurant is when I was in Las Vegas. And then because I wasn't paying for it, it was on the company dime.
Right. Yeah, then it's fine. Yeah.
And it was an okay meal.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've eaten at hotel restaurants, but I've never paid for it.
Yeah.
Because,
because they're ludicrously overpriced.
Yeah, those things cost a lot of money. I got a girl that I originally met in Thailand. Not the one from the previous story. Different girl from Thailand. She enjoys traveling. And so she and I will run into each other from time to time. And she enjoys traveling, but on the opposite end of the spectrum that I do. So I'm out like...
So she enjoys like luxury traveling?
Yes. She enjoys luxury traveling. Ran into her in Bangkok, in Thailand. And she was staying at the Labua, which is the nicest hotel in Thailand. It was a Hangover 2, which I've never seen. But there's actually a video on my YouTube of a walkthrough of her hotel room. And it features a living room with a balcony and a guest bedroom and like a guest bathroom and a main bedroom and a main bathroom and multiple TVs, and it's ridiculous.
So basically larger than some people's house.
Larger than many people's houses, and certainly
definitely
nice.
Larger than my apartment.
Yeah, certainly. Wait till you see this. All right, we're gonna cut this part out probably in the actual episode, because now we're watching this video of the walkthrough here. Phone attached to the toilet for some reason. So you can call room service while you're on the toilet.
You're doing business when you're making business.
Yeah, do business while you're making business. Yeah, and then here's the main bedroom. Anyway, the whole point of this is...
With another balcony.
Right. So this whole thing... Yeah, with another balcony. The whole point of this is to illustrate that she travels well. Mm-hmm. So I stayed with her here. For free, obviously, because I'm sure as hell not going to pay for this. Look at this. But because I'm me, the very top floor has an exclusive restaurant that they would not let me into because I didn't meet dress code.
Yeah.
They had a, as you can imagine, fancy dress code, and I was like vagabonding through Thailand. But and then in the basement they had a fancy poolside breakfast bar with a bunch of chefs that would just cook you whatever you wanted in like a Nutella, vat and all kinds of stuff. Like it was well to do. It was a poolside, outdoor/indoor fireplace stuff going on. Beautiful stuff. Anyway, I ran into her in Bangkok, stayed with her there. Then I ran into her later in Rome, and we partied pretty hard and went and chilled out with her for a little bit. And then I ran into her in the Czech Republic and stayed at the same place she was staying, but she was just staying at a hostel, so I actually paid for that because I couldn't stay with her for free, and it didn't matter anyway because it was like pennies.
Cheap.
Yeah, it was super cheap. But then I ran into her in London, and she was staying at a pretty nice place. She was like, "Hey, you want to stay with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So I stayed with her in London, and then she left. All right, so she's like half Korean, half American. I think she was born in the States, but then she was like half raised in Korea. But at the time, so I ran into her in London, and so I wound up staying with her, and she was like, "Hey, I'm actually flying out today, but I got a couple more days left on the room. Just check out when you leave." And I was like, "Cool, awesome." So, pretty nice place. She leaves. Time comes for me to check out. I go to check out. I'm like, "Hey, just checking out of this room." And then
they give you a bill.
The bellhop guy or whatever was like, "Ah, yes, you must be Mr. Lee. And how will you be paying for the room, Mr. Lee?" And I was like, "You bitch!" And then I was like, "Wait, I think my wife left her credit card on file." And he was like, "Oh, and so she did." And I was like, "Aha! And that's how I'll be paying for it. And also I will be taking lots of this food and..."
As you're saying that, you're like, slowly edging away,
Yeah,
getting ready to break into a sprint. You're like, oh,
yeah.
Okay. Of course,
like reaching for something behind me. I'm like, "I think you'll find my payment directly behind you if you just turn around for a second." Punch him right in the back of the head. Just leave. But yeah, so anyway, she travels well. Why did I start talking about her? Or staying in nice places?
Well, because we were talking about how you're doing the...
Oh, yeah. So anyway, I refuse.
Responder.
So when staying with her or other people in hotels, I will eat there if I'm not paying for it. But I refuse... Like, I'll enjoy a hotel accommodation, but I will be just fine if I'm sleeping in a car or, in the woods. Mm-hmm. So it's fine. Unless I need to be in a hotel or, for some reason I've priorly agreed to stay in this hotel. Maybe I'm taking a fancy trip on purpose with like a lady or something, or some spoiled dude, and they're like, we need to be in this actual room with a roof.
I need air conditioning.
I need air conditioning, and I need to be at least 90% sure I won't get stabbed or robbed while I'm sleeping. Like, all right, fine, we'll stay in a hotel or do whatever. So yeah. But under normal personal circumstances, I'll just be in a tent or whatever, or sleeping behind a waterfall or something. I don't need their fancy, expensive yurts or hotel meals. So we'll see what comes of that. But I sent them an electronic mail. I sent a Raven. So whenever they send a reply.
So with the wilderness first responder training, so would that basically be you're the people who go out and search when someone's missing?
So that would be wilderness EMT.
Okay.
So those are the guys that are like search and rescue, or that would be properly search and rescue.
Right.
So they're the ones that like rappel down into crevasses, and look for idiots like me who've gone missing.
Fallen to their death.
My training is for when I am with the idiots that have fallen down and I'm already there. What do I do that
so kind of like first aid, like
EMT
kind of training.
Yeah, so it's like expedition leaders and people who happen upon other people that they weren't looking for. So that sort of thing. And that functions pretty well with my degree anyway, because I was trained in most of that stuff. And I already have like a wilderness first aid certification and wilderness first responder training. I'm just not certified in it. So I'm going to get this to get like better odd jobs to do while I'm cooking on my own adventures. So that's a thing that happened. You do anything interesting since the last episode?
No.
Okay, well, I did some stuff recently. This past weekend, on Saturday, I went to a wildcat refuge, which is where they like people who like like gang lords and stuff, they get pet tigers,
Mm-hmm.
and then they get busted, and then the tigers have nowhere to go. They go to this place because they can't go back to the wild; they're too
Right.
acclimated. But they can't go live with somebody because they're tigers, and they'll destroy everything. So they go to this wildcat rescue center where they have nowhere else to go. It's pretty nice, and they put on a charity 5K walk. You just go and like pay a few bucks and walk around and look at the tigers and stuff. So I did that. It's pretty nice. It's way out in the country. I like the wilderness. I like the tigers. It's good times. It's good times. And then on Sunday, I went to an art festival, a giant art festival. Took up half a town, I guess, district. Broad Ripple Art Festival. It was very nice. Lots of very talented people and a few not so talented people. Selling a lot of incredibly expensive doodads.
Yep.
Like just paintings and sculptures and what do you call a thing that's like a sculpture but it was welded from junk? Is that also a sculpture?
Still sculpture.
All right, junk sculptures, but that are good. Just blown glass things. I guess those that are also sculptures. Lots of sculptures of various kinds. That's just art in general. It's very nice. Some of that stuff is like $1,000.
Yeah.
So basically, you just go and you walk around. It's what I do.
Yeah,
I just go and walk around. And
whenever I go to art shows, that's what I do as well.
Yeah, it was huge though. I mean, it was just I've never been to an art show that was this big before.
Like, I haven't been to the Broad Ripple one. Like I know of it. And that,
Yeah,
it's
it
huge.
was.
I've been to like the Indie Fringe Festival,
Yeah,
which still big but not as.
I was about to say I've been to the Fringe before, I believe, and could not hold a candle to this one that I went to. Really, just massively, because they charge $15 for admission, and I was like, "What's money? I'm not spending money to just
To go look at stuff.
Look at things. There are things everywhere. I'll look at those things." But I was just hanging out, and I was with somebody, and we decided to do it because it's fun to do things like with other people. Like, all right, this is a thing to do, and it's time sensitive. It's not going to exist tomorrow. It's only for this day and the previous day that I was at the Wildcat thing. It's like, all right, fine, whatever. It's worth it. Money is the most common resource. I get rid of it. It's whatever. I'll go do this thing that's finite. And it was totally worth it. Recommend it. Highly recommend it. So the next time it rolls through, give it a go. Get lots of beers for incredibly affordable prices. Ironically, it's like the inverse of what you would expect.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the makeup for the admission and everything else. Just
Well,
lots of
and
stuff.
I know a lot of that too. That a lot of it they're doing promotion for them.
Oh, yeah.
they're
That's true.
basically giving deals to promote their beer. There's a
Ah.
lot of its local breweries.
Yeah, lots of microbrews and local brews and
They have very affordable prices though, regardless. I mean, they're like Fountain Square's like growler, like to like fill that up if you already have a growler is like I think like $5 on Sunday for like
it's pretty good.
for like a like a half gallon or something. Or
I already have one.
Yeah,
I already have
I
one.
know
We're
you
using
can
it
go
as
to
decoration.
like Rock Bottom downtown on Sunday and get like a growler for like $6.
Yeah, very affordable. Fantastic.
In the news recently, a couple, a man and lady, got married at a Mount Everest base camp. So it took them like weeks to hike to their
Get there.
to get to their wedding destination. And they also had to get like their wedding party there as
Oh.
well, and like all that shit. Imagine how awful it is to coordinate a wedding and get all these people together, just in a normal situation, and it's always miserable no matter what. Now couple that with trying to get to a Mount Everest base camp.
Yeah. So
Must have just been awful. So we're talking about elevations of the base camp was at 17,500 feet, and apparently the groom almost had to be medevaced because he wasn't sure he could make it up there. And someone else had just died recently at that location from altitude sickness.
I mean, I know, like, basically going over 10,000,
Yeah.
you start
You
having
get out,
physiological effects.
Yeah, you get altitude sickness, but I mean, it just depends on the speed that you go and your innate conditioning. He didn't
Right.
look like he was in the best
Great
shape. Yeah, he didn't. I mean, he didn't look awful. Like he wasn't. I wasn't just like, oh my god, how's this guy not dead already? I mean, he looked fine because I saw a picture of him, but just man, the effort that must have taken. That's a cool thing. If you're gonna get married, something like that would be pretty rad. But what, like, because I know I've gone through a lot of hoops to attend other people's weddings, and I'm always like, what a pain in the dick this is
Yeah.
to attend someone else's wedding. If someone was like, hey man, I'm getting married, but it's on the side of Mount Everest. nothing is provided by me.
Yeah,
I would
pay your own way.
Yeah, I mean, since it's me, there's a good chance
so
that I would go.
That's the thing, is I'm thinking like, well, if it's you,
It's
you'd be like, hell yeah.
Right. But like for the average wedding goer, like there's a good chance you'd get like 3 guests at your wedding or whatever.
So, I thought my friend of mine's like destination wedding at Disney World was bad.
Yeah. See that I'd be like, God damn it. I mean, I like Disney World, so
Yeah.
go to that one too. Probably just go to Disney World. But if it was at Disney World proper, that'd be awkward. So like trying to ride the teacups but avoid the wedding.
Yeah.
Just like, what were you gonna say? Ben, the sound guy.
Was it listed on like wherever you read that? Like, did each member of like the party that came, did they have to pay like the $30,000 to like climb the thing?
It didn't say, but I don't think so because those are the climbing permits. But you don't need a permit to be in the base camp. So that's
you can still like die at the level that they were at, but you don't need to pay this money.
That's right, yeah, because you're not climbing all the way up. So they were at 17,500 feet. The top is at 29,029 feet.
That's like halfway up.
Right. It's a base camp, so it wasn't like they're climbing all the way through. Because I think they reported, and this is speculation here because they didn't say this in the article, but they probably reported what their intentions were, and that they didn't have any intentions of properly climbing the mountain. They were just having a wedding, so they probably. Plus, I mean, it's not like they're not making. The whole point for the climbing permits and everything is so that the government and residents get money from people visiting the mountain. They still had to pay a lot of Sherpas to drag all their wedding shit around to the base camp. So it's not like money wasn't being, exchanged.
Right.
So everyone benefited from the situation. So
I was actually just reading a article about a scientific study on Sherpas.
yeah.
That they are genetically predisposed to living in high altitude climates.
Absolutely. I think we've talked about this, that or someone had, maybe it was me and Ben, the sound guy, and we were talking about climbing up, but when you are at altitude, like significant elevation, and you stay there for a long time, so after a couple weeks you get what's called acclimation. So when you're climbing Everest, it's recommended that you stop at each base camp for a while, sometimes up to a couple weeks, to acclimate to that environment. That makes you feel like you're all right, but genetically, your physiology hasn't changed. But if you stay for over a year, that's when your physiology starts to change. So if you stay at elevation for like a year, your blood will actually have a completely different composition.
Right, and that's basically what this article was saying, that they're...
And then if you take those adaptations...
They have thinner blood,
yeah.
essentially.
Well, actually, they would have thicker blood.
Well, this was saying thinner, that the blood
they should have
oxygenates more.
Yeah, they should have way more hemoglobin.
It said lower.
Lower hemoglobin?
Specifically, it said lower hemoglobin. That it says that their body's more efficient.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, that does make sense. So that there would be
oxygen.
Yeah, there would be more oxygen. Well, that would be the same amount of oxygen molecules that bind to the hemoglobin, but a higher percentage of them that get utilized. So
Sure.
Yes. So yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, when you pass that adaptation on over so many generations, then you would wind up getting an innate predisposition to surviving up there. So that does make a lot of sense. Also, I read a study where they concluded that 10,000 years in complete isolation is all it would take to turn a complete... and you can put your tinfoil hats on for this one, for you conspiracy theorists out there that think that the world is... or human society is potentially much older than currently understood. A couple geneticists determined that 10,000 years in isolation in peak conditions is all it would take to turn a completely white population into fully black looking people, like African looking people, or vice versa. So if you took people from the heart of Africa and stranded them in the peak of the Caucasus Mountains for 10,000 years,
like how,
with no external factors.
That's kind of like my question. Like, how big of a population?
They didn't say, or if they did, I don't remember. Enough to
sustain the population.
Enough to sustain the population and stave off potential inbreeding defects, but of course...
I think some I read before were saying, like, at minimum you need, like, 300 individuals.
I would think it would be much larger than that, because we're talking for a 10,000-year time period.
Yeah. Well, when they're saying basically saying that's the bare minimum.
Fair enough, yeah.
To, have enough diversity in the gene pool.
Yeah, so let's say you've got a few thousand then, but that are completely isolated in these optimal environments of extremeness. So you get these extreme optimal environments. In those circumstances, with no outside influences screwing up your Gregor Mendel style Peapod people experiment, then it takes 10,000 years for completely pale, see-through looking Caucasian people to turn into
like me.
savannah running African people, and then you can take those super fast Kenyans and strain them up on a snowy mountain for 10,000 years, and then they'll turn into those see-through alien people, the Greys. So the tinfoil part comes in, because there's a lot of people that think that people have been around for a long time, but the current iteration of people probably migrated out of Africa and were built more like modern day Middle Easterners crossed with African, like Central African populations. But if those gene calculations are factual, then, and the human race is older, then it could have transformed back and forth several times from different regions. So just interesting stuff. Thought that was interesting.
You ever heard of Randall Carlson?
Maybe. What would they be infamous for?
Have you heard of Graham Hancock?
I don't know. Yes.
Fingerprints of the Gods.
That sounds really familiar.
Author. Like, Graham Hancock is he's an author. He calls himself a reporter.
Okay.
And he basically
is he just reporting on his ideas?
It's not necessarily his ideas. He does make distinction between, like, these. He presents a bunch of information from different actual, like, scientific studies and, like, archaeological studies.
Right.
But then he makes a lot of conjecture based on that.
Okay.
But yeah, he's a big proponent of thinking that the human civilization goes back much further than kind of the conventional accepted
Did we already talk about that article? Sorry, I just burped like 3 times. Did we already talk about the article where the scientists found the mastodon bones?
Yeah, and that's one of
like
the things that they're talking about, where it was like totally preserved and
tool
it looked
marks,
like
and
it basically its legs had been broken.
Right, by specific tools that didn't exist
right
at the time, and it would mean human civilization was like at least 10 times older than priorly thought.
And Randall Carlson, in my personal opinion, I think approaches it from a much more scientific perspective, because he's looking at specifically like geology.
Right.
And his whole thing is talking about how he thinks that there were multiple mass flood events in the past that may have wiped out civilizations.
That's where my money's at.
And that, it's potential that there could have been other civilizations in the past, but we don't know about them because they died off.
Right, and there's so far no empirical evidence to suggest that there were earlier civilizations. There's only these weird outlier things, like
there's a few.
There's a few question mark things. Yeah, there's
one recent thing, which again both of them talk about, is I'm going to completely mispronounce it. It's like Igletepi.
Okay.
But basically, it's I forget where it's at, but it's what would be considered a megastructure.
Okay.
Stone, but has techniques that are.
Oh yes, yes, I know.
They don't think existed at that time.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Like, one of the big things is that they have basically essentially hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
But it's embossed in the stone.
Yeah.
So it's, instead of being carved into the stone,
it's raised,
and the rest of the stone was carved away.
Yeah.
And they're saying, like, the tools that would require as old as this site is, like they've done the carbon dating and everything, you're saying that as old as this site is, the technology didn't, as far as we know, didn't exist.
Right. Yeah, so you wind up with these weird outliers where these things exist and you know that they are likely a certain age and they shouldn't exist.
And then one of the other things they talked about, there was like some of the symbols that they're seeing that, like they said, there's a scorpion.
Right.
It's clearly a scorpion.
Right.
But in the part of the world that this is
not native to the area,
there aren't scorpions.
Yeah, they actually found a Sphinx in a tomb in South America, and there was previously a theory put forth that the Egyptians were sailing across the sea, or vice versa, and then that was dismissed as complete impossibility given the architecture of the time. And then I believe they did, if they didn't find the actual ship, they found, or like remnants of the ship, if they didn't find that, I believe they found like a description or a model of it, and then went ahead and built a replica of what they believed that it looked like to see if it could potentially cross the Atlantic Ocean, and it did. And that's really weird because up until then the Sphinx was thought to only exist in Egyptian regions. And yeah, there's all kinds of weird outlier stuff where in the Australian Aboriginal cultures, they've got it's called a dream time, which is kind of their creation myth mixed with philosophy, mixed with oral histories and stuff. And one of those things is like an oral recollection of Pangea, like before the continents separated, and they've got maps, and some people in South America have maps that were drawn up of the complete world before anyone was said to have been sailing the world. So it would have been supposedly impossible for one culture to know about all the continents. Yeah, right. You could know about your own continent on a long enough timeline. You could walk around it or do whatever, get generations to do some cartography.
Physically connected by landmass.
Right. Yeah, but you know, in theory, if you were stuck on that, then you shouldn't have knowledge of any of the other ones if no one was crossing the sea or no one was flying around or doing whatever. Just weird stuff. Just weird question marks. You know, I'm a scientifically minded individual, so I don't want to jump to like ridiculous conclusions, but it's important to be scientifically minded, but also not weighed down by academic dogma.
Yeah.
So
and that's open. What they argue a lot about. Yeah. That they're saying that, you know, if you look back in the history of archaeology, especially Egyptology,
people were wrong more than right.
Yes. And then that some people who would bring up ideas that the, you know, for lack of a better word, mainstream archaeology community, you know, thought were ludicrous, we're finding out now, you know, 100, 200 years later, we're actually right.
That's right, yeah. So.
And they're saying that, you know, it is a very insular community.
Yeah, that's true.
So they're saying that
academic dogma. They don't like the outsiders rocking the boat because they spent their whole lives studying and teaching that things were a certain way. So some of them are very sensitive that if they aren't that way, then they wasted their life.
Exactly. And that's what they're saying that you run into a lot of, where if you're bringing up something that is contrary,
right,
then they're like, they basically try to ruin your career and like downplay you. And
yeah, absolutely, because they see it as a threat. If anyone listening is an academic who's scientifically minded and is concerned that maybe they've wasted their life because new information has become available that runs counter to getting a special jingle. All right. That runs counter to, like, you know, how you've been spending your days writing and thinking and teaching. Don't worry about it. You should be super happy, because that's like the whole point of an educator and a scientist is to be happy. Yeah,
you have a whole new world of discovery.
Right. You're one step closer to the facts. You know, you did the best you could with what you had, and now you have even more.
Well,
don't be mad.
For somebody like that, even if it is the wrong thing, the new thing wouldn't exist without
that foundation.
They have the back to exist upon. You know, to have someone else carry them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and that happens all the time in what they refer to as the hard sciences, so like mathematics, physics.
Yeah, stuff. Those boats get rocked every now and again.
Yeah.
Not as much anymore, but things like quantum physics. That boat's all over the place. I don't know. That's not even a boat.
That's a dinghy.
That is a life raft.
That is a dinghy on the vast ocean.
That is one of those candy-looking life preservers, the lifesavers. That's one of those. Like, you're half in the thing you're trying to study. You're just barely staying afloat.
And just kind of getting thrown around and everything.
That's quantum physics. And at the same time they're in one of those, they're trying to build a boat to sail. And then, once they get a boat built, maybe it'll stop rocking around. But, real interesting, that quantum physics. Back to... Alright, so this couple had their wedding. Not Everest Base Camp, right? Completely different couple. Just finished climbing the 14 highest peaks in the world together. So as a couple, they did that. Can you imagine? Like, most people can't go on consistent... Most people who are dating...
Don't survive a trip to IKEA.
Right. Most people who are in a monogamous, closed relationship can't survive regularly scheduled, like, planned vacations together. Like, they'll take like a weekend road trip somewhere and wind up fighting the whole time where there's no stakes. Can you imagine, like, climbing... That means they climbed Everest together as a couple, because they climbed the 14 highest peaks. They just finished climbing the 14 highest peaks. That's incredible. They're also 55 years old. They just finished climbing the 14th one. They've been climbing for a while.
Because I always ask, like, what kind of time frame was
they've been climbing for a very long time. Let me see here. Let's see if this is... Oh, yeah, I'll go back to the Everest couple here in a second. But they've been climbing for a while together, but they had to take like 15 years off because the guy's health deteriorated for a while. So he had to like nurse himself back to health, and then he got healthy again, and they went back to friggin' conquering the world. And they finished their 14-peak summit with the supposedly the most difficult peak in the world. It's not Everest. Because Everest, while the tallest mountain, isn't necessarily the most technically demanding, depending on which side you're trying to climb. This is... I wrote this really small, and also I have notoriously bad handwriting. Annapurna is what I'm going to call it. Annapurna, it's in Nepal. It's supposed to be the most difficult. It's pretty high, significantly high, because it's in Nepal. And not only did they climb it at 55, and not only did they climb it together, and not only did they climb it as the coup de grace to their 14-peak conquering of the world, but they also did it with no oxygen, no supplemental oxygen.
They both died at the end.
They
both died at the summit.
Yeah, they did it with no supplemental oxygen, and they're 55, and the one guy was sick for a while.
Yeah, that's definitely impressive.
Pretty impressive. And
I mean, it's impressive nonetheless that they did it, period.
Right, and it would have been impressive if any of them did it at all. Oh, we got Ben the sound guy running recon here.
Yeah,
that's
so
them.
You just pull up. Italian couple climbs 14 highest peaks without extra oxygen.
Yep, that's them.
So they did all 14 without oxygen?
I think they probably used oxygen on Everest. If
I would assume they'd almost have to.
If they didn't, then I'm not. You got any confirmation, Ben the sound guy?
It says the wife was the second woman climber to complete all 14 peaks above 8,000 meters without oxygen support. So maybe they use oxygen under 8,000? Well, you wouldn't need it, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, you wouldn't need it.
Climbed all 14 of the world's 8,000 meter peaks without supplemental oxygen in 2011, becoming the first woman climber. We're talking about the first one.
Yeah, I mean, it says only a handful of alpinists have climbed all this blah 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 without any supplemental oxygen. So
if someone's climbing Everest without extra oxygen, then I'm climbing Everest without any extra oxygen. Because you know what's going to happen? I'm going to climb Everest, and then everyone's going to be like, oh, did you use extra oxygen? I would have thought you would have climbed it with nothing but, like, a balloon to blow into, and then carry it up to the top with you, and then just inhale your own exhalation when you get to the top. That's what I thought you would have done while you were barefoot walking on your hands.
Wow.
I wonder how long it took them. I wonder if they spent, like, months at, like, base camps and stuff.
Maybe.
Well,
even if they did, though, who cares?
Has a couple summit record down the bottom. So basically, it looks like they did, like,
Oh,
one per year.
Yeah, this was from 98 was the earliest one to 2017.
Yeah, it looks like 2018 or 2008. They basically look like they did a peak per year from 98 to 2008. And that's where they took that break.
Yeah, right.
And start back up again 2014, 2016, and 2017.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they also had a break here for 4 years, 99 to 2003. Oh, and actually in 2003 they did
too.
4 in a row.
4?
That'll make you take a break.
Yeah. so they were.
The guy's like, no, I'm feeling great. Let's push on.
They were storing up for that one. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna take a few years off. I think I might almost kill myself doing that.
Well, they did this one. I guess there's a Gasherbrum 1 and a Gasherbrum 2. They did the sequel first.
It's probably a dual peaks.
Yeah.
The next one was the prequel. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was the origin story to the first one.
I'm guessing that probably those 4 peaks are like geographically close to each other. Because I don't know how else you would do it like 4 in the same year.
I'm sure. Yeah. The Himalayan range is pretty, jaggedy like that. So they probably just wandered around Nepal for a while. But the point is, very impressive. Yeah, a lovely, happy-looking couple, and good lord, you would have to be, or you would just murder each other.
Yeah.
Because your life is potentially on the line, and you're just stuck out in the mountains with nobody else but that other person for 14 peaks. Good on them.
You gotta like that person.
Very impressive for your relationship to survive. Because most people can't even they're packing for a trip, and it's like, oh, should I pack this? Should I pack this? And then you're bickering, and it's like, oh, you shouldn't have. That's extra weight. What are you doing? We don't have room for the oxygen. That's why they didn't use supplemental oxygen, because the lady packed all her extra shirts and they didn't have room for it. That's what happens. It's not real. I'm just making a joke here.
But then to offer a counterpoint, I think maybe you're just saying most people can't survive going on a vacation, a routine vacation.
Right.
Bicker and argue all the time. But I think maybe the problem that people run into is because it's so inconsequential. That's all they're focused on.
Oh, you know what? Maybe
that's it. There is no inconsequential period. That's all very. They need to be. This is what we need to be doing here and now.
That's kind of how my whole life is, because I can't function without a ton of pressure. If I don't have a lot of stress and pressure, I just can't function. I can't be bothered. When I was in school and I would have huge 20-page things I would have to write, I couldn't start writing them. I would have 3 months to write them, and I couldn't start writing them until the day before they were due. Just physically, and then I would crank them out, and they would be brilliant, absolute diamonds. But I can't exist.
I would do that, but I'm just lazy.
I just can't I just don't I'm like James Bond between missions.
Yeah, when you aren't on mission, you just don't want to do it yourself.
I'm useless. Yeah, I'm complete. I don't function well in normal society. I need extreme circumstances to even be in my element. Or I just don't. We were talking about. Was that this episode we were talking about breathing in space? Was that this episode? I need enough pressure. I need enough pressure, or I just drift outwards. I need more pressure, or I explode.
Yeah, you need that pressure pushing in on you, keeping everything together. Otherwise, you just kind of fall apart.
Exactly. Well said. Good on you. I need that pressure keeping me together.
I know a lot of combat veterans when they come, back.
Yeah.
To regular quote unquote society. Kind of experience the same thing, where that they don't feel comfortable
being comfortable.
Yeah,
I don't feel comfortable being comfortable. I mean, I'm not I'm not.
Which I mean, it's a separate thing from PTSD.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of IEDs in society, but I do have little mini freakouts every now and again for various things that don't make any sense in the context of what. I'll be walking through an office building and think out of the corner of my eye that something is a big python or something, and I'm oh, it's literally nothing. Never mind. Sorry, that was someone's shoe. Carry on. But just little things like that get you high stress situations, I guess.
Yeah, because that's basically the thing is that, from what I've read about it again, I've not been in the military, so I can't speak from personal
right
experience. But my grandfather was in the military, both my grandfathers, and he said, you get used to it.
I've heard you can develop an addiction to a certain kind of misery.
Yep.
A low level, a lot of relationships. Circling back to the relationships, a lot of people are in dysfunctional relationships because they develop a weird addiction to the dysfunction. And I don't mean like on a convenience level. I mean, like on a psychological and chemical level, like a literal addiction.
Like, even though they say they don't like this, it's what subconsciously they kind of desire. Right. Because that's what makes them feel, in a way, comfortable.
Right, yeah. It's the thing that they're most used to, which is unfortunate. But going back to positive things, going back to the people who got married on Everest, it's a pretty extreme wedding, wouldn't you say?
Definitely, yeah.
What do you think their very first date was like? They've never had a date before. This is the very first one.
Parachuting out of a plane.
They did something even probably debatably more extreme for someone you don't know at all. You've never met this person. First date. What's something you don't want to do on a first date if you've never met somebody? In general terms, I mean. I'll tell you what you don't want to. I'll tell you what you don't want to do to someone you've never met is you don't want to commit to being alone with that person for long periods of time in unisolated circumstances with no escape. So their first date was an overnight hike through Yosemite National Park, where they had to like camp and stay together, overnight.
Well, then surely they knew each other through mutual friends, because how do they know
that they're not going to
end up murdered?
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, that's really ballsy on the woman's part.
Exactly. Yeah. And on the guy's part, don't fool yourself. Don't fool yourself. If some chick's agreeing to go on an overnight hike with you on a first date and you don't know each other, there's a good chance there's a wingman.
She be equally crazy as well.
That's right. There's a good chance there's a wingman waiting to take your kidney when you pass out or whatever. You don't know what's happening. Keep one eye open. But what a crazy first date. Even if, let's say, best case scenario, they have mutual friends that got them together, there's still like an 80% chance they're not going to like each other.
Yeah.
That's pretty extreme to be like, hey, we've never met, but what do you think about...
And you can't just leave.
You can't. So. Yeah, you're stuck. Best case scenario, each person packs their own tent. And they're just like, well, I will begrudgingly see you in the morning so we can hike out of here.
I feel like, though, with somebody that's like that, it's not just lay people that are we're going to go out to a restaurant and we don't really know anything about each other. They're just doing normal stuff like going to a restaurant.
Right.
Versus, if there was a girl that I knew that went, she's climbing all these mountains and all this and doing stuff, and she, lived with snakes for 2 years or something.
Right. It's just something crazy.
If I knew some girl like that, and, I'd be like, oh, hey, here's Nash. I don't think the two of you would dislike each other,
And that's true, because even you just describing this woman who... Does she exist?
No, I know.
Okay, well, that's unfortunate. Because even you just describing that woman, I was like, yeah, I would definitely go on an overnight hike with that person without having met them previously. So I just automatically felt a bond to this person who is not real at all.
Because, just those activities, it's clearly those things.
That's true. They do attract a certain class of person.
And at least nothing else, you share some mutual interests.
Yeah,
that's true.
When you just go out to eat with someone, you
really don't know anything about them. Other than that, oh, you like food? I like food.
Yeah.
The person's like, I don't really like food, and you're just like, oh god, this is gonna be so long.
And they're just like, I don't like this food.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to someone, and they were like, I have never seen Star Wars, and I was like, well, I love movies.
Yeah.
Maybe we should watch Star Wars. And they were like, no, it's a point of pride. I'm too far in now. I don't really want to see it.
I've gone. Okay, I've already gone.
I've gone
25 years without seeing it. I'm not starting.
All right. No, but we actually are pretty good friends. So that worked out. That's a terrible example. But if I was on a date with someone and they were like, I don't like any of the things you like at all. In fact, I'm not even neutral. I hate the things you are.
It's not even I'm just like, I don't really care for it. It's like, no, I really don't like those things.
Yeah, probably that date is going to be over real fast. I'm probably going to try to go to the bathroom and then just never come back. That'd probably be the manliest thing to do. or just tell that lady that she's mistaken. I'll probably just explain all the reasons she's wrong about everything that she believes. I'll probably spend an hour. I'll probably spend an hour dissecting everything that she believes until she has no idea how the world functions anymore, and then I will.
You should have a much funnier. You should have maybe just carry around just in case.
Right.
Something from the health, whatever the hell the U.S. health thing is. Carry around a letter your back pocket that you printed.
Oh, right. Like, and then she's like, blah, 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 and I hate her. I'm like, oh, by the way, this is the thing that says I have all these diseases.
Yeah, exactly. Just before we get too involved.
Right, yeah, I know, I can feel this is working out, so I'm going to let you know in advance. I definitely have all these diseases.
You just
laying it out on the table.
Also has
right? She's like, me too. I'm like, oh no. Oh no.
You have hepatitis C, so do I.
She's like, I kept putting this date off because my herpes were flaring up. I'm like, yeah, so anyway.
Just gonna go to the bathroom.
I'm just gonna go go ahead and order whatever you like, and I'll be
in the bathroom, on account of the gonorrhea.
Right, yeah. You know how it is when you've... I just squint at the paper because I have no idea what the diseases are. We have to go to the bathroom. You know how it is when you have menstrual cramps. So, I'll be right back. Yeah, good time. So anyway, yeah, I just thought that was crazy that their first date was an overnight.
Yeah.
All right, so got a public service announcement for today, but we'll save that for towards the end. I think there's an item you've been meaning to discuss here.
Yeah, that you'd mentioned a few episodes ago briefly, and it was something I definitely wanted to come back to, is that you lived homeless on the streets of Tokyo for a while.
Oh yeah, I've been homeless in lots of places.
But probably particularly interesting because Tokyo is, as I mentioned before, one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive cities in the world to live in.
It certainly is.
And it seems like that would be very difficult to get by with little to no money.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So, but here's a fun fact. So I'll give you some highlights of my time bouncing around. So basically, it was during the global economic collapse of 7 and 8.
Yeah, late 8, early 9.
Yeah, so I had to move out of my apartment to get enough money. I had to move out of my apartment to get the deposit back to get enough money to eat for a while. So I had like almost $1,000 once I got that money, so that I could stretch that out for a very long time. Because even though Tokyo is one of formerly the most expensive cities on Earth, they do have, if you know what you're doing, you can live.
So I know they got the coffin hotels.
Super cheap. Yeah, those are actually expensive as well.
And I know
capsule
hotels.
Yeah,
the capsule hotels. I know some food you can get very cheap.
They have, if you know where to look, so they have the equivalent of a dollar store called the 100 yen store, the Hyakuen store. And unlike the dollar stores in North America and some other parts of the world, they're actually fully functioning stores. Like with all of your groceries, like fresh produce and all kinds of stuff. But since Tokyo is Tokyo, how to say this? Not merchandising, not commerce. What word am I looking for?
Commercialized or?
Yeah, thereabouts. The whole Tokyo sort of business machine is very appearance focused. So you go to the store, like they have watermelons, right? You go to a regular store, you get a watermelon for, not an exaggeration, between $75 and $200 United States dollars for a regular watermelon, right? But this watermelon is visually perfect, right? Same thing with bananas, although bananas aren't nearly as expensive. Watermelons are an outlier, but lots of stuff's expensive. Like durian is like $75. It's about that price here. But so you go to the regular store, get a bushel of bananas. It might cost you the equivalent of $10. But if those bananas happen to have a spot on them or a bruise, they're not visually perfect, they get sent out to the dollar store. Still totally perfect, but they just...
So a perfectly fine banana.
Totally fine.
It's just not aesthetically perfect.
Right. So the dollar store is basically all your regular stuff, but like maybe some ink got smudged on a package or something, and so now it's at the dollar store. So you can go to these, and they're not all created equal. Some of them are definitely shit, like you would imagine. Just like the reams of stickers and non-functioning sunglasses and crap and 2 liters of discount off-brand soda. But if you know where to look, you get the good ones. So you can get, if you're really savvy. The last time, this past summer when I was in Japan, I still eat at the Hyakuen shops all the time. It's where I get all my food. Because why would you go anywhere else? There's no reason to go to a restaurant unless you're with someone who wants to go to a restaurant and you both have the money. I'm typically by myself, unless I'm out with my buddies, and then we go to a restaurant. But like if I'm just by myself, you get all your food, all your groceries, proper groceries, at the dollar store, the Hyakuin shop, the 100 yen shop. So I mean, like, we're talking milk and yogurt and bread and meat and fruit, all the things. I mean, they also have things you would expect to find there, like ramen, like top ramen, not like real street ramen, but like, put it in the microwave.
Maruchan.
Yeah. They still have that junk
cup
too.
Noodle.
Yeah,
right.
Cup noodle. Yeah, they still have the cup noodles, but they also have really high quality cup noodles, if you can imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they have all that stuff. So food becomes not really an issue at that point, if you know where to look. So you've got one of your basic necessities out of the way. You've got food. So that, I mean, granted, that takes money, but it takes almost no money. As I started to say before I cut myself off, last time I was in Japan this past summer, I was on average spending on food about $4 a day, $4 US a day. That's livable, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's livable. Because I got my deposit back from my apartment, so I had like $1,000 to play with, and I didn't need to worry about transport because I still had my pass that I had from school, so I could use that. I was still going to school. I was just like either sleeping on streets, or in parks, or I would crash at the dojo sometimes, or like stay at a buddy's house every now and again. But I mean, I was homeless.
Right.
And
that's one thing I was going to because you said like sleeping either on the street or in parks.
Yeah.
I know, as you said, Tokyo is very appearance oriented.
Exactly. So you're probably thinking
cops would not let you do that, and that
right?
they kind of regularly patrol and kind of, hey, you can't be here, you need to move.
Right. But get this. So that's what you would think, right? So you're like, what are you to do, right? Is this going to be like some of the other countries where I've had to like hide and run from the
like,
law,
did you have to,
right?
hide in like an abandoned building or something?
Yeah, right. Which I have done, but no, actually, Japan in general and Tokyo. Hopefully, this doesn't change for the 2020 Olympics, which are ruining everything. So this will probably change, but up until now, and hopefully continuing onward, Tokyo and Japan in general are the most homeless friendly. It's the most homeless friendly country on earth. So vagrancy is not against the law, and all the natively homeless people they never ask for money or change or food or anything, and they're completely invisible except for at night when they go to sleep. They will occupy corners of closed buildings, like outside, like when the shop closes down. They'll construct a cardboard shack right on the spot, and so you can't see them. You can only see a cardboard box. You can't see them, and they will sleep there. And then in the morning, at like when the sun rises at like 4:30 in the morning, they will pick up all their stuff, and they clean the area and the streets around them more than just what they use. And they actually are a vital member of society. So they don't.
And I think that maybe, and that what you just said right there, makes sense to me then on why the public, when at large, tolerates it.
Yeah,
because they aren't just throwing trash everywhere.
They are not a nuisance. In fact, they're basically invisible when they sleep.
They're basically free city workers cleaning up the city.
Exactly. So they never ask for anything, no handouts, no anything. In fact, many office workers that have actual full-time jobs are homeless.
Really?
For one reason or another. And yeah, they'll have like one change of clothes for sleeping in, and then they'll have like a suit that they work in. And so at night, they will construct a cardboard box fort and sleep in a park or in an alley or in a doorway. And so they're not a visual eyesore for the most part. I mean, this is you do get your outliers, of course. In any society, you get your outliers.
Sure. I mean, and also, I know it's probably not nearly as big an issue there as it is here because of how they treat it. And also because they have national health care. But like mental illness.
Right. Yeah. They do have national health care, and mental illness is, they do try to, help as much as they can. So usually those people are in
some kind of actual care.
Some kind of actual care. Yeah, once again, you do get your outliers. But for the most part, yeah, some kind of actual care. But yeah, so for the vast majority of people who are quote-unquote homeless, they actually have jobs. When I was in school there, a buddy and I used to go to this park across the street from the school, and we would throw frisbees around and like play on the playground and stuff. And then right as the sun would start to go down, this dude in a suit would come in and kick us out. They're just like, get out of here, like I have work in the morning, I have to go to bed. And he would just, there was a broom in the park, and like everyone would just leave the park, and then he would sweep the park, he would clean everything, and then he would bed down for the night, and then get up in the morning and like take all his stuff away, and then clean it again and leave. And that was his thing, and like everyone just left when he showed up. And it's not like he was malicious.
No.
He wasn't like gonna like bite people if they didn't leave. It was just one of those things, kind of like, you know, people are like, "You kids, get off my lawn! I got work in the morning." Like it was one of those things. Like, everyone, quiet down! I have to go to bed. It was just that, and like so that's a thing, and vagrancy is not illegal, so no one's going to bother you if you are not causing a problem. And littering is super frowned upon. There's not really any trash cans in Japan.
Yeah.
So if you have,
and for people I know who've been to Tokyo, like they always say that it's very clean.
Yes,
for being as densely populated.
Yeah, which will probably also change with the 2020 Olympics as more foreigners are brought in. But yeah, there's no trash cans on the street because eating and garbage are only, you can't eat and walk. It's culturally offensive. So you're supposed to only eat in a pre-designated eating area, like a park, which has a trash can. So if you wind up like somehow having garbage in your hand while you're walking around, you're going to be walking around for a super long time because you don't want to litter unless you're a bag. Don't litter, audience. Anyone listening, don't litter. I am stuck on this same planet as you. Don't ruin this for me. Yeah, so, and here's how vagrant-friendly Japan is, right? So a lot of these office workers are homeless, and they'll be sleeping in parks or whatever. Some people, for whatever reason, maybe they're just one bad day, maybe I'm just one bad day removed from being them. Like, they just drop out of society, and they're like, I'm just going to live in this park forever. I don't need a job. I've got whatever resources I need to get enough food. I'm just going to live in this park. And I won't bother anybody. I'll leave during the day, and I'll just live in this park. If, and you can check this out, this might have changed, but I'm pretty sure that if a homeless guy in Tokyo lives in the same spot for 10 years, that then becomes his legal residence. And so that is then his, not his property, you know, like he can't, like if he's living in a public park, he can't like sue someone for trespassing.
Right, he can't claim that it's his land now.
Right, it's not his land, but it is his legal residence, so his mail will then be delivered there. And his, like, if he has things and they're lost, they will be returned to there.
That's interesting because I actually, years ago, read this a manga called Homunculus, and it depicted the stuff that you're telling me.
Right.
And I always thought, like, oh, you know, it's fiction, or, like, you know, it's kind of not really this way. It's
right, exaggerated for the story, yeah.
But, yeah, that same thing. Like, this guy basically is living with a bunch of long-term homeless.
Yeah.
This guy, the main character, is essentially recently homeless.
Right. Were they like showing him the ropes and stuff?
Yeah, and it's like what you're telling me, that basically they had like a park.
Yeah.
That's where they would sleep at night, and then same thing, that they would clean up the area. You know, they had brooms, broom up, break up all the leaves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any trash would pick up.
Yeah, so I mean, like, even though they're homeless, they're not outside of society. They still see themselves as part of society, and society still sees them as part of society. So because they're Japanese, all Japanese feel like a deep obligation to society. So like, even though they're homeless, and a lot of them have jobs, so they're still part of society. So they still feel this obligation to pull their own weight and then a little bit more. So, you know, they'll go out of their way to not bother anybody, but then they'll also try to make it better than when they showed up, or at least, you know, leave no impact. And so the cops absolutely leave them alone because they're not hurting anything, and they're oftentimes helping things. And you know, passersby leave them alone because, you know, best case scenario, they've got a job and they're just trying to get ready for work in the morning, and for whatever reason they're sleeping on the street. Worst case scenario, they're having a real tough go at life, so who wants to like make it worse?
Make it harder.
Yeah, who wants to make it harder, you know? So you know, everyone's trying to be a little bit extra considerate. Also, since vagrancy is not illegal, also Japan is an alcohol-based culture.
Oh yeah.
So the entire culture revolves around various levels and reasons to consume alcohol. And we can talk about the reasons for that on a different episode, or maybe later if we just get on a tangent. But because alcohol is so deeply ingrained, public intoxication is not against the law. Mm. So a lot of times people will just drink, and then pass out on the street. Like, on any given evening, you will have to physically step over the bodies of salarymen on the road that have drank so much they've just passed out on the road. They just will be surrounded in a pool of vomit, and you'll have to literally step over their bodies, and then in like 4 hours they'll wake up and go to work. And that's a normal thing. And so in those circumstances, which are quite common, who's to distinguish who's a homeless salaryman and who's just a salaryman that drank so much they passed out on the street?
Yeah.
It's not worth the bureaucracy that it would take to sort the paperwork out. Everyone's got better things to do. And none of those things is illegal in the first place. And outside of vomit everywhere, they're not hurting anything, and they've got cleanup crews that come up in the morning to spray off all the vomit from the night before, which is a real thing, because it's so common. So there you go. So that being said, we got the food taken care of, because the Hyakuin shop, the 100 yen shop, so if you know where to go, you get what you need, and vagrancy is not illegal. So all you need to do is find some place to hole up.
Yeah, so just find some place that someone else isn't using.
Yeah, find some place that someone else isn't using that's not in the way. Mm. So don't be in the way.
Yeah.
If it's a warm enough night, sleep on a park bench or wherever. If it's cold, like I first became homeless as it was getting cold. And then one of the worst nights, it was like deep into December, and I could not find anywhere to hole up. And I wound up holing up in a subway station's entrance. So they put this big gate down to keep all the homeless people from flocking down, from going underground. Yes, they put this big gate down, and I couldn't find anywhere else. So I just like curled up in front of the gate, and that was a real shitty night. I just couldn't find anywhere better. It was just windy and crappy. But other than that, for the most part, I mean, you can usually accommodate for all the previous stated reasons. So it would seem that the most expensive city on earth is the worst place to be homeless, but in some ironic twist, it's actually the best.
Yeah, it's actually a great place to be homeless.
It's objectively the best place to be homeless.
It's still shitty, but if you're going to be homeless, it would definitely be preferable over many other places.
Yeah, it's objectively the best place to be homeless, and if you can, if you find a good spot and you're not planning on like vagabonding around, and you just wind up homeless for some reason, but you have business in that one area, if you can find a good spot where you'll stay dry, and you have some coverage from the wind, and it's not gross, it's totally good. Like, it's not even like fine. It's good. It's outright good. So it's a.
Also, if you just own a car, I mean, it's not illegal to be homeless there. I mean,
that's
you
right.
Just live in your car, and that's
right.
Just took away that aspect.
The cruel twist of fate here is that almost no one in Tokyo owns a car.
Yeah.
Because it's
well,
super.
It's kind of like New York. That traffic is so.
The traffic is ridiculous.
Crazy dense. Everyone just uses public transportation.
Walks. Yeah, and so you only have two options for owning a car. You either have an apartment or whatever. Let's say you own a car and you were living in an apartment, and then you lose your apartment, right? So for the homelessness scenario, you would still have to store your car. There's no like parking on the street. So you would have to store your car in a special car storage area, and people aren't allowed in there. So you couldn't sleep in your car because it's in like a cool, like weird rotary mechanical Iron Man suit storage machine.
Oh, that's
it's like a gigantic vending machine for cars.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like in New York, they have, like in Japan, a lot of them are underground.
Yeah.
In New York, they have the same things, but they're above ground. So you actually got to get to see how it works. It's really neat. That basically you have like two columns that have multiple shelves, essentially.
Yeah.
So they basically, and then the whole thing can lift up and then rotate around.
Yep.
And
then it like picks it out like a vending machine. Yeah, it like picks it out.
So yeah, so when you come to retrieve your car, you just tell them the slot.
Yeah.
The thing lifts up.
I'm in C6. Yeah.
It's like your car's the one on the bottom, and they lower it down and goes off.
It's like a fluid MC Escher Harry Potter castle changing parking garage.
Yeah.
It's like imagine a parking garage that was all those things plus a vending machine. So it's got all the parking spaces, but they just rotate a giant conveyor belt style. So every parking space takes up one parking space.
Does it take like 5 minutes though for it to like place your car?
It does take a little bit.
Yeah. It takes a little time for it to place and retrieve the car, but
you like walk out.
You're using
like,
I forgot my jacket.
Yeah. If you forget your jacket, it's going to be a situation, and on some of them you have to pay per storage and retrieval, depending on the setup. So kind of like in some places where you have to pay, kind of like in some places in North America where you have to pay per parking. So like, let's say you paid to get into a parking garage, and then you drove out, and then you were like, oh shit, actually I'm not done yet, and you went to go get back in. You would have to repay. Usually.
Not if you throw it in reverse.
It's true. You drove all the way out and you made it to the street. And
the arm went down.
You throw it in reverse?
I don't know. Whatever. But for this scenario, whatever. Anyway, yeah, so sleeping in a car, not really an option. The only other time you would have a car is if you had a proper house to store the car at. And those are like way out in the suburbs. So I guess if there was some way you lost your house,
then the other reason would be that you're just rich, and then you wouldn't be homeless. So
yeah. So there's very few instances where you would be homeless but still have the car and be able to sleep in it. So not really. Also, cars are so friggin' expensive in Japan. If you were homeless, no one uses a car in Tokyo. So if you had a car in Tokyo and you were like, oh no, I lost everything I own, you could just sell that car and be rich again. Yeah.
Like gas is way more expensive.
Everything's more expensive.
And then just buying the car itself is a lot more expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, also getting a driver's license is super duper expensive in Japan. Especially Tokyo. Like it can be thousands of dollars to attend a driving school.
So I did not know it was that expensive. I knew that you actually had to pay and it was expensive.
Yeah, well, I said can be. That doesn't mean it's always that expensive, but it can be thousands of dollars to attend a driving school. And then it's money to take the test, and you're not guaranteed to pass. And then it's more of a prestige thing because very few people need to drive unless you're going out to the country and you don't want to take a train. Yeah. Like a few of my buddies have driver's licenses, but they also have nice cars. One of them has a pretty sweet motorcycle, and the other one has a nice car. But it's more of just a personal look what I have. Like it's not a necessity. Like if you went out to like a rural area of Canada, you would need a car. Or like a sturdy mount of some kind.
Yeah. Well, and then also like here.
Yeah, absolutely.
We in Indianapolis we don't really have a very good or really any kind of mass transit. We have buses. We have the Indy Metro.
Yeah, there's the one train here that runs.
Yeah, there's the one
to Chicago, which is a junction. So then you can get anywhere else via there. But it's really.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about just getting around Indianapolis.
Oh, itself. Not an option. Yeah, there's like one bus.
Yeah, you have. I mean, if you're just getting around downtown, you'd be okay. You can go by bus.
You can go by walk. Can't get anywhere downtown in a bus, can you?
Yeah.
I was thinking for the whole city. Like you got one bus.
Looking at the whole city of Indianapolis, you have like the main line that just kind of runs north. And like I was actually taking the bus from downtown to the south side of Indianapolis, like Beach Grove area.
Right.
Because my car wasn't working. So I was taking the bus to work, to and from work.
You and your car.
Every day. Same car. Basically, it ended up just being the battery. Thankfully. But yeah, it was like basically a week where I was taking the bus to and from work. And let me tell you.
Was it miserable? I
wouldn't say it's miserable. Like, I never had a problem with like people on the bus or anything like that.
I never had a problem with people. I took the bus one time in this city. I took the bus one time. Actually, no, that's not true because I've taken it to the airport a couple times. But I took the bus one time. We'll say for fun. Like I was just transiting from one place to another place, and it was miserable. Not because I had problems with the people that were on the bus, but because like the general air of the bus, like everyone on there just looked like it was just a mausoleum of broken dreams.
Yes,
like everyone on there was like, well,
that's absolutely how it was in the mornings.
Yeah,
I was fortunate enough that I was the manager where I was, so I could kind of make my own hours.
Right.
And I could do a lot of working from home. So typically how it was is I would catch the bus at about 10:30 or 11 and take that into work, be at work until about 4:45, and then get on the bus that goes back into downtown at arrives at like
because you're at the mercy of the bus's timetable.
That's the other thing.
And it just does whatever it does.
If you're in the downtown area, it's not too bad, because usually there's a bus, depending on what line you're taking.
Right.
There's usually a bus that comes by about every 10, 15 minutes. On the south side,
just everyone's
it's every
like
hour.
Yeah, everyone's like, I don't know, just general like the air that you can feel when you get on there. Like they just have that air where they're like, well, my life's not working out because I'm on the bus. And like, so sad. It shouldn't have to be like that. The bus should be like a fun option. It should be just like, hey, I would like to go from A to B, but I would like to not walk. And why should a car be mandatory?
Yeah.
Like if
and the thing is, like, the other big problem was that just what would normally be a 10 to 15 minute
drive if you were driving yourself
was an hour and a half bus ride.
Exactly. And that's it's detrimental to society. No one who is forced to ride the bus can probably thrive enough to reach a level where they no longer have to take the bus. If they're like forced into bus timetable hours, like you don't get a lot of leeway.
Well, like it does two things. One, it kind of restricts how far away you can go. For a job. And the times that you can go there. Right, and the times that you can go. Because that's the thing, the further you get from, like, downtown Indianapolis, those timetables get more and more stretched out. Right, so, like, you either need to find a job in downtown.
You missed your one bus for the day, and you're like, well, I'll be fired tomorrow because I didn't make it to work.
Or, like, you have to call your boss and be like, hey, I'm going to be an hour late because the bus came 5 minutes early and there's not another bus for an hour. So that sucks. If anyone's listening, anyone at all, if anyone's listening to this podcast at all, and you don't have public transport in your area, or you do but it sucks, write your congressman. Absolutely. I say that a lot as a jest, but this time I mean it.
Yeah,
I need to pee really bad.
I mean it every time. But
so I'm gonna go do that.
All right.
I'll let you talk for a minute.
Sure.
I'll be back quickly.
Sure, co-host.
But if I don't go now, there's
co-host is taking an emergency urination break, so I'll just talk over this. If you're like wanting to improve the state of your public transport in your area, make your voice heard, I guess is what I'm saying. No one person, no drop in the bucket is going to be the flood that it takes to make the change. But, ounces make pounds, pennies make dollars, so on and so forth. Like, enough drops do make a change. Constant dripping wears away stone. And what is government but the rock that keeps everyone down? We just need enough drops to wear it away enough to where it serves its purpose of serving the people.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of public transportation. I
mean, you're not a fan of the concept of public transportation?
No. Even if, I'm just gonna turn this because he's not here.
Yeah, talking to the microphone. Wait. So you're against public transport?
Well, I'm not against it. I'm not gonna, pee in your soup.
Right?
I mean, if you want to do it, you do it.
But just as
I'll pay for it out of my, what they're taking out of my thing. I don't care. I just don't. I don't think it'll ever be to a point where I would want to do, unless public transportation was autopiloted single-person Tesla vehicles or something like that. Because it's like you're combining so many different things. Like, you're taking away, like, my freedom to, like, choose where I want to go, like, directly. Like, I might have to walk a little bit. You're making me conform to, your timetable. It's taking even longer. And you're doing something like, you're basically taking the reason, like, I hate going to a store or going out to do a thing. Like, I have to now deal with a bunch of other people that I don't know, probably don't like, like, I have to be in this, and I have to, like, put on a whole...
I get it.
I
definitely get that.
I'm being friendly
I love this
now,
counterpoint. Yeah, and I do find it draining when you get into a large group of strangers that you are stuck with.
Yes.
And you have to do the big group of strangers pass the time dance.
Yeah.
Where you're like, hey, fancy that we're all stuck here together right now in this elevator or whatever the shit it is, and I guess we'll just how about that weather, huh? It sure is doing the things that it normally does, but let's make a big deal of it.
That really wouldn't be that bad. Like, I really wouldn't mind, like, if that were how people were, I wouldn't mind doing a thing like taking public transport or going out or whatever. But
you just go to the store and people throw their crap at you, and you're like, oh, people.
I mean, nobody's like an asshole, obviously, but like the culture of like everybody like looking away, everybody on their phone, nobody wanting to speak with, it makes me so uncomfortable, like, and so anxious, like, for, you know...
I'm the complete opposite.
I do get that. But
I don't want anyone to talk to me.
But don't you feel like when you go out somewhere and, like, you feel like, you know, like, anxious and, like, you know, whatever, like, once somebody comes up to you that you don't even know, and they start talking to you, and they engage you in conversation, don't you feel so much better? Like, because they, like, you're like, oh, like, I don't even know, like, why I'm here, and I don't feel included.
Okay, now if it's something where, like, say, I'm going somewhere I've never been before, and I'm on my own, and I kind of know how to get there, but I've never actually been there before, and say, you know, I'm walking, like, sure, maybe someone's like, hey, you know, comes up and like, hey, you trying to find somewhere or something? They obviously I look like I'm lost or something.
See, I always look like I'm lost because I'm always lost.
But the thing is, though, I usually plan that stuff out because I don't like being in those situations.
Right.
So I always make sure I know exactly where I'm going before I go.
After I've determined that the person who came up to me and started talking to me is not putting me in a likely pincer attack situation where he's the decoy and I'm getting pickpocketed or someone's going to come up and shank me or whatever. After I've determined that that's likely not the case, then yes, I do feel more at ease when that guy comes up to me. But also, here's my counterpoint to your counterpoint. So you're against you using public transport, but you're not against public transport.
I'm all for our PSAs about you do whatever you want to do because I don't care what anybody else wants to do.
Are you for... Here's my thing. I feel like public transportation affords people greater freedoms who would otherwise not have it.
Like, you mean like if you don't have the funds to like get a car and like go somewhere.
Right. So I'm not saying replace all modes of transport with public transport. So you would still be free to go in any direction you choose. But these people who priorly were at the mercy of this garbage bus would now have a functional mode of transport to get the places they wanted to go at the times they wanted to be there.
Yeah, they can totally... I mean, that's the way it is now. It's just shitty, you know?
Right, yeah.
And I'm willing, you know, it's not like I'm sitting here like, I don't want to use it, so I don't think my tax dollars should go to... Like, I don't care. You're taking the money anyway. It's like, it's either going to go to, you know, a bus thing, or it's going to go to
my tax dollars go to something like that than some of the things they do.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the thing. I mean, a rising tide rises all boats is definitely not true. That's a dumb saying. But I feel like improving the infrastructure of an area never has negatives. Never has... And by
you could definitely overinvest,
right?
Or invest
and by the words
not so smart things.
By the words never and negatives, we have to qualify those words because those are really powerful words. So by that I mean,
generally speaking, it's going to help.
Very rarely, the cost would outweigh the benefit in investing in infrastructure.
The benefit would outweigh the cost.
Very rarely the cost would outweigh the benefit.
Right. Like, in the thing is, usually the way people look at it is because the upfront cost.
It is a large initial investment, but when you stretch that out over a timeline and you look at, you know, how much it costs over time to upkeep it, and what the benefits to the members of society were if those people now get better jobs and they contribute more back into society, are they now no longer gangbanging rapists, and now they're like, whatever, investment bankers.
Even taking from not looking so deep into, say, social science kind of stuff, like even doing something just like reducing the number of people driving cars so there's fewer car accidents, reducing number of emissions.
That's right, fewer carbon emissions, fewer car accidents.
That, you know, car ownership is much more expensive on the individual level.
That's true.
Than, you know, getting a commuter pass. So
also
you're
true.
On the individual level, you're economically.
I myself have never owned a car, and I don't want to. I'm not. I feel.
Yeah, I got several friends like that.
Yeah, I feel no Like, I get the appeal, but like I personally have no connection. Like, I am not attracted to the automobile. Like
See, I am.
Right, and I understand it intellectually. Like I just don't feel that.
Yeah.
Like kind of like I'm not a gay dude, but like I could look at a really attractive dude and be like, I get the appeal. Like I'm not attracted to this guy, but I see where someone
would see why people would be.
Yeah, I see where a gay...
He is objectively handsome.
Yeah, I see where a gay dude or a regular lady would be attracted to this guy. Like I understand it intellectually, I just don't feel... That's how I am with cars. Like I feel no attraction to cars. And if I can get by without owning one, like if I would just borrow them or use public transport, that's what I would prefer to do. But, like, I get why people would want them, and I get why you would not want to use public transports.
Well, I mean, if I was in a situation now where I could just be borrowing someone else's car...
You'd much rather, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, but, I mean, under the circumstance that you don't get to just take it back whenever you want. Like, I'm borrowing it for pretty much ever. Maybe I'll pick you up if I'm, like, off work.
So basically, so what you're saying is you want someone to give you a car.
Yeah. What if that's not a problem? I don't want to take a bus though.
What if there was a situation where you had a friend, you didn't have your car broke and it's broken forever and now you're poor? What if you had a friend that was like, hey, I have this car and I don't use it on these days. Let's go halvesies on the car, and so you can have it on the days you need it, and I'll have it when I need it. But if you need it on an off day, when I'm normally using it, you have to ask me for it, because maybe I'll be using it.
Okay.
So you can't just take it willy-nilly, but it's yours for the scheduled days that you have it.
I mean, that seems fine. I mean, there'd be certain things, like, you know, I'm not going to walk to pick it up. You come over, and I'll drop you off in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, I mean,
I get it. You hate using your legs. Well, you want other people to move you around, but you don't want it to be on the track with other people being moved around. I get it.
I don't. Well,
you want your own.
Like I said, if the culture was different, it'd be a completely different thing. But you know, like you see like as you said, like the sad people, and then it's also just nobody. If there was just like one guy in a room all the time, like if every room that you went into, you know, had this huge crowd of people, but there was one guy in that room that was like this, like, you know, like entertaining, like, you know, fantastically outspoken, magnetically charming individual. If there was just that
every
one
room
person
has me in the corner. Got it.
Yeah, and that you know, everybody, you know, wouldn't act a certain way, then that would be fantastic. But you know,
no, yeah, I get it. I definitely
because of that individual, you know, affecting all these other people. But
that's not the case.
That's not the case.
I get it.
It's this.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes even with people you know, that it still absorb that. You know?
It's still super sad.
Yeah.
But
it's funny because, like I said, I'm the opposite. And I have several friends who live in New York. Like a few have like lived there all their life. And then a couple others are like transplants. Like a brother from mine who lived here all through high school, and like basically as soon as she graduated high school, moved to New York.
Okay.
And that's where she's been since, and still is. She's been there for. So I'm trying to think. She would be 3 years younger than me, so probably about 15 years.
Nice.
And at least in New York, and again, this is just New York, specifically Brooklyn area. They're all the same way as me. We're like, I don't want anyone to talk to me. And it seems like that, and you know, when I've been there multiple times, when I've been on the subway and stuff, like that's how the majority of people seem like they don't want to interact with other people around them unless it's someone they know.
It's just it's like for me, it's like such an anxiety like thing, like to just like I know that that's how people feel, and I know that that's the way that I should be behaving. You know, like like culturally, for me to be polite, I should not want to. Yeah. And it's like I have to pretend to not notice you.
Yeah.
You know.
But then from what I've seen too, like if you did approach someone, unless they have something like they have headphones on. If you have headphones on, like that person does not want to talk to anyone.
Yeah, that's a get out of interaction free card right there. Sometimes I know people that put headphones on, but they don't listen to anything.
Yep.
They just put their headphones on. They're like, oh nope, sorry, don't bother me. I got the headphones on.
There's a friend that he says, you know, and it's not like little earbuds. He carries like big headphones, and he said there's times where he'll put them on. He's not listening to anything. He just doesn't want to talk to anyone.
I think I know who that is.
No, you haven't met this. This is a person who lives in New York.
Well, I know another person.
Someone who may be like that.
Yeah.
It'd be just like if you had a shirt that just had like an out of order sign on it. Just be like, sorry, it's closed, out of order.
He gets like pissed because like he's like, so I was on the train and like I got my headphones on and I'm like just like looking down like at my phone or something. And like some guy like comes up to me, is like talking to me. When it's like he says it's always these kids that are like supposedly trying to raise money for middle school, selling like candy.
Joke's on them. I'm immune to other people's problems, so they're just like, I need money to go to take my team to the state final championships.
Exactly.
You want to buy some candy bars?
Like basketball team.
No, it's always crap that I don't care about.
Yeah, that's my problem. We have like a group of those kids that comes like to the place that I work at because like we're really like they stop at businesses and stuff. They figure there's going to be patrons in there, and like their product is always chocolate, and it's
and I don't want it.
Yeah, and they pick the worst. Like they'll come in the middle of summer on an 85-degree
day and it's
like
with melted and gross.
Why would you not pick a better product? You could sell if you had like specialty drinks. Like maybe you can't get like this yellow flavored Monster. Like really, at very many places around here, you have that, and you have it, and it's chilled, and you have other drinks that are like not commonplace, like a Pepsi or something.
Right? Yeah.
You'd probably be making some money, but you have like nasty chocolate that you're just trying to guilt people into buying.
Yeah, and I just don't feel the guilt. So.
You might as well like give them a piece of paper.
They're barking up the wrong tree.
If you're just trying to guilt them.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. But before I sound like too much of a monster, I will stop to help people that need actual help. So like if I see that someone's blown out a tire on the road, I will stop and help them. I will pick them up, no questions asked. I've picked up hitchhikers before because I've been on the other side. I've been on the other side so many times, and I'm like, as long as I feel like there's a 51% chance this person's not going to stab me, I'll pick him up.
The guy's not all like twitchy and like...
Yeah, there's only one guy, actually, there was just one person I didn't pick up. Someone was hitchhiking one time, and I started to slow down. It was nighttime, I started to slow down, and then I saw them in the light, and I was like, nope, and just sped up and drove away. This person was so stereotypically shady looking. Like, he looked like an old sea captain, but way far away from the sea, like gray, scraggly beard, and like just scars on his face. And I was like,
He's
no.
got one eye that's like 3 times bigger
than the other.
Yeah,
I was like, no, sir, I am not picking you up. But, if someone needed actual help, if there was, whatever, some situation, like I would definitely rise to the occasion. But I'm not buying your garbage chocolate for your made-up sports team for a sport that I don't care about. Like, no, thank you. Full pass, hard pass. All right, so back to a quick topic at hand. Just a quick vote. So you are or you are not for the concept of public transportation?
For the concept, that's great. I'm
All
for
right.
a lot
you don't have to,
that I don't want to use.
I'm for face tattoos. I don't want one.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So 3 out of 3 in here for public transport, right?
Yeah.
For the improvement of the public transport infrastructure. All right. If anyone's listening to this and they care about the improvement of the public transport of their area, write your congressman. And also, write them about that, and then write a separate thing about something that's funny for my own amusement. So write them about something funny. You know what else? Wait, maybe not yet. I don't know. Just write about something funny. Just answer any of the questions that we pose. Like I always say, write your congressman with the answer, and a non sequitur style. Like what do you think about adding new sound effects to the show, like the Flash Gordon opening? You think that's a good idea? You think we should use something else? Give us an answer by writing your local congressman with nothing in context.
I feel like they should also send that though in the format of a just because card, and inside it says that. Like like, what do you think we should do for the sound effects? Just send them
that. Yeah.
And then, of course, you'll get the canned response letter showing that they obviously did not read it.
Yeah. You get the automated letter that comes back like, we value your opinions and we will take this into consideration. Like, I don't think you do, and I don't think you will.
You see, the one time I actually wrote a congressman was the last time. Because I had such a horrible impression of it.
Was it about legalizing weed or something so stereotypical?
No, it was the first time that net neutrality kind of came up.
Oh yeah.
And so I think this was.
I'm surprised
there's been so many iterations.
I'm surprised you didn't write someone this newest time.
This time, I don't think it fucking matters.
Since El Trumpo came in and started knocking down walls.
And that the Republican Party, controls both houses and the
Well, they don't
judiciary.
control my house.
FCC. And they've shown that they're going to, for the most part, just go lockstep with whatever Trump pushes.
We'll see.
And so this was several years ago, and it wasn't when the term net neutrality was a thing.
Hadn't been coined yet.
This is when they were talking about either SOPA or CISPA, whichever they've been trying to pass this same bullshit.
For those people like me who have no clue, what's a SIPA SOPA?
I forget what the acronym stands for, but it's the same
Stop
stuff.
Online Piracy Act.
Stop Online Piracy Act?
Yeah. So it's basically... So that's what SOPA was. CISPA was the exact same thing, just a different acronym.
Stop.
Or it was CISPA.
Cancel online piracy.
But basically the way that the legislation was written is that it would give places that are both content creators and content providers.
Okay.
So someone like Comcast.
Netflix doesn't
So
provide content, right?
So by provider I mean like they own the pipe that delivers the content to you. So Comcast and NBC.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So they both make
they're owned by the same parent company.
Right.
They operate separately. But anytime you have that kind of stuff, like obviously they're going to try to do things to help each other.
Yeah.
They may not be able to directly collude, at least above table.
Yeah.
But it would give a huge amount of power to things like Warner. Because that's the thing, all the big telecoms are now also pairing up with all the media companies. So they're both the content creator and the content provider.
It's all so awful. They own both sides of the war.
Yeah. And the way that the original legislation was being drafted, that it was giving huge, basically carte blanche power to these big conglomerate companies to basically say they can just shut down your website without having to go through a legal process.
Huh.
And they didn't have to have a lot of justification either. They could just say oh, you violated copyright, we pull the plug.
Wow.
So the reason that didn't go
was because you wrote your congressman.
Well, no, because he voted for it.
Did you tell him to do that?
No.
Well, he didn't read your letter, apparently.
Clearly. That's why I found that, at least, and the thing is, of course I can only answer for, I can't remember who the congressperson was at that time.
Mike Pence.
No, he's not in Congress.
I don't know. I don't know about politics. I don't know about the people in politics.
Which, I'm not a big fan of Mike Pence either. And that's the thing. I'm not a big fan of most Indiana politicians because Indiana...
You're from here originally, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Indianapolis tends to lean more liberal than the rest of Indiana.
Right.
So Indianapolis tends to have, I think, more balanced representatives. Like you might even if it's a Republican, like I definitely lean Democrat.
Right.
But even if it's a Republican candidate, if it's an Indianapolis-based candidate, I can usually find them more reasonable than a lot of the other Republican candidates that are just way far right.
So what happened when you wrote your congressman? You wrote him and you said, "Hey."
Basically, I wrote him a letter saying hey, I want to let you know, I'm one of your constituents. I do vote, and I wanted to talk about this particular bill. Gave the bill number, what the title of it was. So, I personally believe that this is a really bad idea,
Right.
At least in how it's being presented in the current draft. I don't necessarily disagree with everything in it,
right,
as a core idea, but the way that it's being presented gives way too much power to the telecoms, and basically just kind of outlined how,
right,
most of them already hold regional monopolies.
And so what did your elected official say to you?
The response I got back was a completely generic response that did not even address what I was writing about. It didn't even mention the bill.
Right, yeah.
It's just basically,
your tax dollars are hard at work building roads and schools.
Exactly.
But I wrote a letter that said don't build those things.
This is exactly what I didn't want. I am anti-roads and schools.
And that's what it's like, all right, well, that was a huge waste of time. It was like, not a super long letter.
Right.
It was, maybe 2 pages.
Here's I would get a certain amount of joy in that, though, because as I tell the one listener who listens to this podcast all the time, write your congressman just with nonsense. Just something is better than nothing.
Every day, whatever you think in that day.
Yeah, at the very, just mail him excerpts from your diary, just every, dear politician, and then just describe your day and mail it to them. That would be hilarious. I have the biggest crush on Tommy from the Power Rangers, but I don't think he even knows I'm alive. Someone spilled ink on my dress today, and I almost died. Semicolon, left parentheses? That's the frowning, crying face, right?
Why would you be...
Yeah.
No, but you're, winking and crying.
Well, one of those is a tear. The colon... It's
I guess, but semicolon is usually if you do
it's usually
happy face,
it's like
smile.
colon apostrophe or something. Colon.
Yeah,
is that
the
what
apostrophe is the tear.
Whatever.
With a semicolon, you're
it's
winking
just
as you're sad.
Who are these politicians? Number 8 == capital D.
Oh, tilde.
Oh yeah. For the ejaculate. Yeah.
But yeah, so that was that whole experience just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. And I mean, I know the best way to really have to even consider your opinion is to see them in person.
That's true.
Or of course, bribe them.
Well, that's how you get your opinion actually heard. But
yeah. Or just have them, actually look at it. Because, I know for a fact that basically what happened is some intern opens the letter and just throws it in the trash and then sends a return letter to me.
Chucks it into the big coal-powered fireplace that they have. All right. Well, we don't have a lot of time for discussion of this next topic because I am starving.
Same.
And it's late. But just a quick public service announcement. Read in the news. A service station, or a gas station, if you will, a convenience store, tiny little places like that, they usually have just garbage inside of them.
Mm-hmm.
Someone went to a gas station and got gas station nachos. Mm-hmm. And those gas station nachos killed a man, left a woman paralyzed, and injured 10 other people. Because the nacho cheese was improperly stored and was infected with botulism.
Yep.
How did they... We serve nacho cheese at our work. How did they do that? Because I don't want to do that, obviously.
Well,
don't do that.
That's what you get around to with any kind of canned goods. It's basically when they vacuum seal it, that it doesn't form a vacuum.
So it's something that we will notice and not on our part.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's definitely obvious if you go to look at a canned good and it's bulgy.
Yeah.
Okay.
That means basically there's bacteria in there, and that bacteria
are expelling gas.
Thriving. That's why they can bulge out. So yeah, if you have any kind of canned good and it's got that bulge, don't eat it.
The bulge implies that it's got botulism or some other horrible bacteria, but a lack of a bulge does not guarantee that there's no poisonous bacteria.
Is there a way that you could store it that would also cause...
There's a way you could prepare it, which is called thoroughly cooking your food.
Yeah.
But if you get enough botulism in there, there's nothing you can do.
Well,
so
what causes it, storage-wise,
it's mostly what.
Like if let's.
There's
say,
nothing you can do. Short of like freezing it at super low temperatures, once the botulism is in there, which would be on the manufacturing side.
I mean, I'm more speaking of like.
So, like at your place of employment, there's nothing you could do.
Well, but what we do is we open the can.
Yeah.
We open the can, and then if it's like half full,
right,
we're gonna save that for the next day, so we store it. So I'm
Oh.
saying, is there a process of storing it that would lead to having that? You know, because if there is,
I mean, you definitely want to keep everything sealed.
How
and
long are you storing it?
Yeah.
Because if
like
you're only storing it
10
a
hours.
day, yeah. So if you're only storing it like 10 hours a day,
You're probably
not
all
be a
right.
problem, as
Yeah.
long as you just cover it.
Yeah,
and
cover
refrigerate it.
cover it and refrigerate it. You're probably fine.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a Center for Disease Control specialist.
But technically, once you open it, it's full of bacteria.
Yeah, that is true.
So we really should be throwing it away every day.
Well,
at the end,
depending
of it,
on what it is. I mean, it's the same thing with just like leftovers of food.
It's true. You know, people get pretty sick from leftover Chinese fast food because they keep the carton of rice, but they don't reheat the rice.
What is that bad?
The rice
dries out.
Well, I mean, it dries
well,
out.
if you're using like a microwave or something.
Yeah, but a lot of people.
Some people like cold rice.
Yeah, I like cold rice. I just like rice in all its forms. But yeah, a lot of people get sick from that because the rice is technically old, and even if it's refrigerated, it's still slowly gathering bacteria.
Huh.
So if you leave it in there for a few days, it's
a few
old
days.
food.
Yeah, usually if you refrigerate it overnight, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, can vary depending on what it is. Because I actually read a whole bunch about this. I'm like, how long is it safe to consume pizza after it's been cooked? So say you order a pizza,
Right.
and you don't eat all of it, put in the refrigerator.
I've never had the problem you're describing.
and basically the consensus,
You know when you get food and you don't eat all of it? No, I don't know that. I am not familiar with this.
Basically the consensus on, I looked through a bunch of different sites, different sources, and pretty much the consensus was if you refrigerate it, it's good for 3 to 4 days.
Okay.
Beyond that, it's still edible, but then you start running the chance of there being, potentially bacteria there that can make you sick. And it's probably, again, not going to be like life-threatening sick.
Not like botulism in your nacho cheese. The moral here, there's a reason that there's a stereotype for disgusting gas station service food that could give you horrific bowel problems and diarrhea or what have you. It's because those things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So the next time you think about getting some shady-looking food from a corner mark, maybe don't. Maybe just know that you're going to tread somewhere between diarrhea, paralysis, and death. So you roll those dice if you feel like it. Just know what you're getting into. That's all. All right, so that's the end of our episode today. Anything you want to add?
Oh, I think I've said quite enough.
All right. Well, so I'll let you sign out your part, and then I'll sign out my part.
Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Have a good night. This is Aaron.
And this has been the national pastime, Nash out! Nash! Whoa!
Yeah.
So I'm curious because now with the internet,
I've heard of it.
like the companies that exist that control the internet, if a company comes in that has the money,
The Illuminati.
to splice into their lines and become their own service provider, they can't refuse, right? Like they now have to allow people to be their own service providers, if a company so chooses, correct?
Now, wouldn't that be
no? Because on
private?
That's what so what you're talking about is almost like Google.
I thought that was the
rolling
thing
out
where it's
their
now
own network.
Yeah, but I thought it was now a thing where internet is public utility or some shit. And
Oh yeah,
now,
but they're taking that away.
That's what they've already. The FCC
has
taken.
already, yeah, they're taking that away.
There's not even another provider yet. They're taking it away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not gone.
They want to make sure it doesn't happen.
They had the preliminary vote, and this was just last Friday.
Yeah.
They had the preliminary vote to basically move forward with discussing the legislation. So they've already, and then basically what it was is the rollback of the Title II classification for ISPs.
Well, now, provided that it still is a thing.
So right now, they are still classified as Title II.
And that means that a company could just pop up and say, I want to provide internet, and they get to provide internet. So now, providing that that's still a thing.
And that's what they're talking about with edge providers and last mile.
Okay, so let's say that still exists. If Google, with all of their glorious money, or maybe Lord Elon Musk, Big Daddy Musk, happens to say...
Your computer's doing some stuff. Is that bad?
It's like sleeping, I think. It's
probably just the monitor? Or...
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So now, Big Daddy Musk, praise be unto him. If he decides with all of his money, I think this is terrible what they're doing with the internet, and I want to make my own provider and blah, blah, blah. Now, he can, operate his company under all of our users and all of this. Everything is as it should be, and nobody's, whatever. He operates it perfectly, right? The way that now everybody comes to him.
The problem, and this is what Google ran into, why they've pretty much stopped trying to expand.
Turf wars.
Is because many municipalities have made legislation that is heavily financed by the big telecoms, Comcast,
right.
Warner, Verizon, that make it illegal in that municipality
right, like
for
Baltimore.
Another company to use those lines. So,
but there was a bill passed though that so they're just saying oh well that was grandfathered because we already made this deal with them.
There is no the FCC can set national regulations, but the individual states and cities, they can make their own regulations that can potentially overrule that. Now, there are some guidelines with the FCC, and the big thing too is, even though it may be the law with the FCC, if they don't actually enforce it, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's kind of the big thing here, where they're saying okay, even if they have the capability to say, okay, ISPs, you can't do this, if they never enforce it, then in practice, ISPs, yes, you can do this.
Right.
And that's with the current FCC chairman, Ajit Pai. He's made it very clear, even if it doesn't pass, they aren't going to enforce it.
Right.
Okay.
And he's made it clear that he doesn't really care about the public opinion either. That the literally both him and what's the other asshole's name? And that's the thing right now. There's only 3 people on the FCC commission. 2 of them are Republicans, 1 of them's Democrat, and this is not just unique with Trump. It's with the way it's been for quite a while. Normally there's 5, but whatever party that the president assigns the chairs, but whatever party he belongs to, they have to have at least 2 people who are of the opposite party sitting on the FCC commission.
Okay.
Well, what they basically have done is they just haven't filled those 2 open chairs.
Dicks.
So Tom Wheeler, he was the previous FCC commissioner, and he basically resigned once Obama left office.
I have to pee super bad. I'm gonna go pee now. You wrap this up, and then when I come back in, I'll do my PSA, and then we'll wrap up the episode.
Okay. Sorry, I know I'm getting really into this, but this is something
You're clearly passionate about.
Yes, this is something I am.
My bladder cannot handle your passion, so you get this all out while I get this all out.
I rarely get into politics, but this is something I definitely feel is huge, and just because the internet is not just the U.S. Even if the U.S. is the only one doing this bullshit, so much of what goes on the internet is driven by the U.S. and U.S. companies.
Right. Well, I mean, even just the thing of if you can take down a website and just say that it's copyright, if you exist as a company with all this money,
nobody can do shit. I mean, the same thing happens to me on YouTube.
On YouTube all the time.
It happens to me all the fucking time, and it's not even like, I mean, YouTube just wants to stay on the side of we don't want to get involved, right, and so if anybody, I mean, I just had my recent video that is now flagged for copyright, and I can't monetize anymore, which I'm not really worried about. I'm not making fucking money from it anyway anymore, but it wasn't even a big company. It was, I Googled the fucking people. What it seems like is a group of, like, I don't know, probably half a dozen teenage, maybe a little bit older kids that make their own music and whatever, and it's really shitty music, but they, I guess what their game is they go around and flag other people's videos, and when you dispute it, Google's like, well, what are we gonna do, dude? We can't go to court for you or some shit, so... That video is now said to be owned by, it's not even WMG, So, like, if you can do that with a fucking website, and nobody can fucking do anything, I mean, I guess if it's a website where it was, like, something about, like, free speech or something, it's just gonna be up anyway again. I mean, there would be like, Anonymous or somebody would, like, just fucking broadcast it, like, to a million different domains.
What's currently going on with the emphasis on net neutrality is, and this is the problem, that a lot of people just fundamentally do not understand what net neutrality means. So net neutrality, in a nutshell, very basic, means that
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
Service providers should be neutral towards the content that is being dispersed through their pipes. So it's saying that your ISP, Verizon, Comcast, Time Warner, whoever you have, can't discriminate between how they treat data from one source and another. So if you're downloading, if you're watching Netflix, or if you're watching Hulu, or if you're watching YouTube, they shouldn't be treating that data any differently from any other source. What they're doing with rolling back Title II, and then also with changing the net neutrality wording, would make it completely legal for ISPs to say, we can throttle your data on X website. So Netflix obviously is in competition with a lot of these companies because now there's that whole merging of being both content creator and content provider.
Right.
So Netflix is cutting into their profit margin, essentially. And it would be legal for them to say, okay, well, if you want to use Netflix, we're going to throttle you down to where you can't get HD.
Right.
Or you can pay us an extra $15 a month, and you'll get, premium access.
So what would you suggest people do if they don't want this to happen?
First thing, highly suggest go to the FCC website. I don't have the specific.
I'm sure if you
resolution number.
Let's say if you gave it a good googly moogly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure
pretty fast.
I'm not a big fan of the John Oliver show, but easiest thing you can do, you create a website called GoFCCYourself.com, and when you go to that website, it will redirect you. Like, it doesn't even load a site; it just immediately redirects you to the specific link on the FCC site to post a comment.
Right.
Specifically about the current bill for rolling back Title II classification. I would highly recommend anyone who likes the internet how it currently works and has worked for a while.
I don't care, but I like freedom.
Yeah, I think the internet is by far the most important innovation for freedom of speech since
the printing press,
movable type.
Yeah,
for being able to communicate an idea or information to other people
over a large,
with a lot of jump cuts.
Yeah, with a large span.
Really terrible
without it being an incredibly expensive endeavor. Because before we had books, but if you're going to mass produce them, they were all handwritten. So
it's true. Yeah.
One, it was very slow. Two, it was very expensive.
Nobody could read.
Yeah, and then because of because of the rarity of books, not many people read.
Yeah.
Once they made, printing press, movable type, books were much cheaper to produce. They could be produced much more quickly, much greater numbers. And then now people are like, hey, this whole reading thing, there's all these books around. I wish I knew what was in them.
Incantations, mostly.
Yeah. And, it's just been a, progress from then. So, then we got the telegraph and we got the telephone.
Got the telescope.
Yeah.
Which actually was born out of those things, believe it or not. The telescope came as a result of the printing press.
Oh, yeah.
Because the printing press made people start to read, which then made a vast majority of the population realize that they were nearsighted. And they didn't know that because they didn't have anything close to look at before. But now they had books. And so they invented glasses to compensate. And
so
the mastery of refractory glass bending from the glasses led to greater and greater lenses, which led to the telescope.
That led to Netflix, and that led to the situation that we are at right now.
Full circle. If we had never made printable movies that are types, we wouldn't be in this situation.
Yeah.
Moving on. Quick PSA, and then I gotta get out of here.
No, very, very last thing I wanted to say.
All right,
if you do make the FCC comment, I highly recommend you do not. There's a lot of sites you can go to that talk about this, and they basically give you like a copy and paste response. Please don't do that. Type out your own response.
Yes, please be an individual.
There's
Copy-paste responses are treated like robots.
Yes. Well, and the reason I am especially pushing this right now is because there has been proven to be a whole bunch of anti-net neutrality posts that are clearly bot posts.
Yes.
So
I heard about that.
To distinguish yourself from being a bot, type out your own post. It doesn't need to be anything super long or super articulate. Just say, you are against this bill, you are against the rollback of the Title II classification, and you are pro-net neutrality.
And don't just add something to the end, because any decent bot could just fucking add something random to the end.
Yeah, don't just add something to the end. Add something
Same
to the
thing.
beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
It's called paraphrasing.
Just backspace everything.
Write it. Put it in your own words.
Yeah.
But those are the big things.
Paraphrase.
Against the rollback of Title II, because that's precisely what they're talking about doing right now.